There is genuine truth in the idea that younger women are often drawn to older men. The life experience, emotional steadiness, clarity of mind, and inner stability that come with age create a real and meaningful advantage, one that younger men simply haven't had the time or the trials to develop yet. But here's where it gets complicated. Having an advantage and knowing how to carry it are two entirely different things. Men in their 40s, 50s, and beyond repeatedly fall into the same patterns when it comes to younger women. And every time those patterns show up, the damage goes deeper than just lost attraction. They lose something harder to rebuild: respect. And without respect as a foundation, nothing else you bring to the table ever gets a fair look. That's the painful irony at the center of all of this. Older men already possess exactly what younger women find compelling. The problem isn't what they have, it's what they do with it, or more accurately, what they do against it. The encouraging part is that nothing here requires reinventing yourself. You don't need to pretend to be younger, wealthier, or more culturally current than you are. You simply need to stop undercutting yourself with a handful of specific, very fixable mistakes. The first one is putting her on a pedestal. You encounter an attractive younger woman. She carries herself with confidence. She's beautiful. Maybe she feels a little out of reach, and something inside you tightens. You start thinking, you cannot afford to get this wrong, that she operates on a level above you. So you shift into a mode of overcompensation. You become excessively accommodating, relentlessly agreeable, careful to the point of being completely harmless. Every conversation gets filtered and sanitized until there's nothing left in it that actually crackles. Here's what you need to understand. Women do not develop deep attraction toward men who worship them. They develop it toward men who stand next to them as genuine equals. The moment you place someone above you, you've already communicated insecurity. And insecurity is one of the fastest ways to drain whatever chemistry might have existed. The correction is straightforward. Practice engaging with women of all ages without tethering your self-worth to how the interaction lands. Once you genuinely internalize that she is a human being with flaws and uncertainties like everyone else, the pedestal collapses on its own. What replaces it is something far more useful. Confidence rooted in the understanding that compatibility runs in both directions, and you are just as much the one doing the evaluating. The second mistake is mishandling the age question when she asks how old you are, and at some point she will watch what happens inside you. For a lot of men, something visibly shifts. The voice tightens. The posture softens in the wrong direction. The ease they've been carrying suddenly drains out. The moment you treat your age as something that needs managing or excusing, you've already framed it as a liability. And that frame is contagious. If you believe it's a problem, she'll start to as well. Your age is not the obstacle. Your relationship to your age is. State it cleanly, without apology, without explanation, without the nervous laugh that signals you're bracing for judgment. Use humor if that comes naturally to you, but let the underlying current be ease rather than deflection. Confidence reframes age as exactly what it is, an asset. Hesitation transforms it into a burden you're asking her to overlook. The third mistake is leading with financial status. A significant number of older men have quietly convinced themselves that money is their primary draw. So they steer conversations toward careers, possessions, travel, and the markers of material success. Some go further and attempt to create interest through spending. What this actually builds is not attraction, it's a transaction. When you open with wealth as your primary offering, you don't draw someone toward who you are. You draw them toward what you can provide. And the women that dynamic tends to attract are looking for access rather than genuine connection. Let your success reveal itself gradually and naturally as a backdrop to who you are rather than a substitute for it. Lead instead with how you think, how you treat people, what you actually stand for. Financial stability is something that should quietly support your life, not perform in place of your personality. The fourth mistake is sliding into mentor mode. Many older men, when they sense the age gap, instinctively reach for a role they feel comfortable in. The advisor, the guide, the man with lessons to share. They offer perspective, dispense wisdom, and position themselves as someone with much to teach. What this does to chemistry is devastating. When you frame yourself as a teacher, you've created a dynamic that makes any romantic move feel strange and misplaced. She accepted a mentor. She didn't sign up for something else. If romantic interest is genuinely there, let that be visible from the beginning. Not aggressively, but through the natural language of attraction, lightness, a little playful tension, genuine flirtation. Wisdom is appealing, but only when it exists alongside polarity, not in place of it. The fifth mistake is trying too hard to appear younger. Forced slang that doesn't belong in your vocabulary. Clothing chosen to signal youth rather than to fit who you actually are. References and behaviors adopted to close a generational distance that doesn't actually need closing. None of it works, and all of it communicates the same thing, that you are uncomfortable with who you are. Chasing youth signals insecurity just as loudly as any other form of overcompensation. What actually works is almost the opposite. Dressing with sharpness and intention, maintaining your physical health, speaking in a way that is genuinely yours, carrying yourself with the ease of someone who has long since stopped needing external validation for how he shows up. Your lived experience is the thing that sets you apart. Disguising it is the last thing you should be doing. The sixth mistake is turning too much of the conversation into a highlight reel of your own life. Older men have a tendency to let interactions drift toward professional accomplishments, past achievements, and the credentials they've collected over time. It comes from a real place, the desire to demonstrate value, but the effect is the opposite of what's intended. Attraction is not assembled from a resume. It grows through genuine exchange, through the feeling of being truly met by another person. The man who actually commands attention in a room is rarely the one cataloging his accomplishments. He's the one who seems fully present, who listens with real interest, whose attention makes the person he's talking to feel genuinely seen. Let what you've built come through in your character, rather than in your talking points. A man who is grounded in his own value doesn't need to argue the case for it. The seventh mistake is neglecting the physical dimension of how you present yourself. The richness of your inner life and the depth of your experience only carry so far if the external picture communicates someone who has stopped investing in himself. You don't need to look young. That's not the point. What you do need to communicate through your appearance is discipline, self-respect, and intentionality. Well-fitted clothing, clean grooming, a body that reflects some level of consistent care. These things signal that you take yourself seriously. And when someone can see that you take yourself seriously, they are far more inclined to do the same. At the root of every single one of these mistakes is one central issue: not fully owning who you actually are at this point in your life. Younger women are not holding out for perfection. They are not running a checklist of physical or generational requirements. What draws them when something real draws them is confidence that doesn't perform, authenticity that doesn't apologize, and a grounded sense of masculinity that feels settled rather than still searching for itself. Stop spending energy on excuses. Stop exhausting yourself trying to prove something. Step fully and cleanly into who you've become. Because once you truly own the man you've become, people stop noticing your age first and start noticing your presence instead. Real attraction has never been about chasing youth or trying to prove your worth. It has always been about confidence that feels natural, authenticity that doesn't need approval, and the kind of grounded presence that makes others feel it without you having to say much at all. The moment you stop trying to impress and simply stand fully in who you are, everything begins to shift. And in the end, the men who leave the strongest impression are rarely the ones demanding attention. They are the ones who carry themselves with quiet certainty, self-respect, and a presence that feels impossible to ignore.